In 1940, Pakistan could not be found on a single map. Creating it took years of exchange of ideas and people between the Hindus, Muslims, and British. To find where it started, we have to look back more than 100 years. The year is 1858 and Britain has officially colonized India, meaning the British Raj has control. The British have been here as traders since the 1600s, but have not taken control until now. What we don't know now, though, is that while this rule will last less than 100 years, it will change the way the country's people interact forever. At that time, Muslims, Hindus, and Sikhs were happily living together.
In the same part of the village, I remember Hindus and Sikhs living side by side, living with us.
There was a time of peace between everyone, even the British, but by the time World War II started, that peace had been shattered. The Indians have been fighting for their independence for decades, but the strong British military could not be weakened. Eventually, with the cost of World War II, the British could not afford to keep soldiers in India.
Having come through a very expensive world war, that the cost of maintaining an army in India following the Far East War, we realised that this couldn't be paid for. The taxpayer, England's in a bad state.
Unfortunately for India, how to get independence from Britain was not the only topic of conflict. The people and leaders could not decide how India would be run once the British left. The Muslim and Hindu leaders explored many ways to run India, but could not agree. Leaders of the Indian National Congress wanted to keep a united India, while Muslim leaders wanted to create a new country, Pakistan.
We want the division of India into Hindustan and Pakistan because that is the only practical solution.
Muhammad Ali Jinnah was the president of the Muslim League in 1947. Unlike Gandhi and other leaders of the Indian National Congress, he feared that if Pakistan was not created, then the Hindus would have much more power than the Muslims.
But in a democratic form of government, the Hindus will always be in a majority and the Muslim will always be in a minority. We have no chance. Our minority will never be transformed into a majority.
Eventually, leaders like Nehru realized the only shot they had at getting the British out fast was accepting partition. There was one man, though, who did not give up his hopes of a united India: Gandhi.
After the riots, Gandhiji's attitude was that we are same people, born in the same country, brought up in the same country. We have believed in the community living. Whether you follow this faith or that faith doesn't matter. It is humanity which concerns.
One leader of the Congress Party had Jinnah and Gandhi meet, but after almost 3 weeks of discussions, they announced they did not come to an agreement. Through their discussions, Jinnah and Gandhi became friends, but Gandhi stated after, "The Indian problem still remains." The date is June 3, 1947, and the partition plan has just been announced. India will be divided. This required the Punjab and Bengal assemblies to vote on whether they wanted to keep their provinces united or partition them. Pakistan was officially named a separate country on August 15, 1947, and the official boundary was drawn 2 days after Pakistan's independence. Sir Cyril Radcliffe and his commission were given just 5 weeks to decide on a border between India and Pakistan. This included partitioning Punjab, which was very difficult since most areas of the Punjab had a substantial mixture of Muslims, Hindus, and Sikhs. This complicated procedure done in so short time caused millions of refugees and tons of violence, especially in the Punjab.
I think the scale of violence against women, against children, against men was particularly horrifying in the case of the division of Punjab.
During this Great Migration, more than 15 million people were exchanged across the border between India and Pakistan. Overall, partition displaced 15 million people and killed more than 1 million, making it one of the largest mass migrations in human history. Crossing to India or Pakistan was not easy, and refugees encountered many problems. Muslims were so desperate to get to Pakistan and Hindus to India that refugees would pack on top of train cars as well as in between them. The violence of partition was so horrible that some British soldiers who had witnessed Nazi death camps claimed partition's brutalities were worse. The loaded trains of Muslims were easy targets for local gangs, who often attacked the trains and abducted the refugees. And more often than not, women became the target.
In many of these cases, unfortunately, women end up paying a particularly heavy price for the conflict.
Throughout partition, women were subject to many types of violence, including rape and being hacked to death. While much of this violence was caused by the abrupt exit of the British were able to escape blame and responsibility. Historian William Dalrymple wrote, "Whereas British rule in India had been long marked by violent revolt and brutal suppression, the British army were able to march out of the country with barely a shot fired and only 7 casualties. And even many years after the partition, the Muslims and Hindus did not blame the British for the violence." The Great Migration of Partition drew to a close in 1948, but the violent legacy did not end there. While partition has tried to be forgotten and put in the past, the violence it creates still exists today. Pakistan and India fought 3 wars against each other since 1947 and have come close to a 4th. Pakistan is a somewhat unstable country and has had many problems with religious extremism and violence. While violent encounters between India and Pakistan have been reduced, in a way, 1947 has not ended yet.